Am I the a-hole for not allowing my brother to be in my wedding after he basically took my family? I'm 35 now, and it feels like the past several years of my life could fill a book with drama and heartbreak. The whole saga begins back when my dad passed away. That was a tough time for me and my younger brother, who was still in college then. His studies were important, and I didn't want his future to get sidetracked because of our loss. So I took on the responsibility of keeping us both afloat. I couldn't pursue my own dreams of going to college because I had to work several jobs. It was a sacrifice, but one I made willingly to support my family, which at the time included my then wife and our young son. My brother couldn't afford rent on his student budget, so I invited him to stay with us. It seemed like the right thing to do. Initially, it was good. He was like an uncle to my son and helped around the house. However, as time went on, the stress of juggling work, a rocky marriage, and extended family living with us began to take its toll. My marriage started to deteriorate. Arguments with my wife became more frequent and more intense. It was during this chaotic time that I made a shocking and painful discovery. My brother was having an affair with my wife. This betrayal cut deep. It wasn't just the infidelity, it was the profound betrayal by two people I had trusted the most. I divorced my ex-wife, but the saga didn't end there. In a twist that felt like it was out of a soap opera, my brother married her in less than a year after our divorce. The divorce proceedings were tough. I fought hard to get full custody of my son, wanting to protect him from the unstable environment my ex and brother now provided. Unfortunately, the court decided on shared custody. My ex-wife painted a picture of me as the problem in our marriage, using our past issues, which were now compounded by the current situation, to her advantage. Living through this period was like navigating a daily minefield of emotions. I was devastated, angry, and felt a profound sense of loss, not just for my marriage, but for the brotherly relationship that was irrevocably damaged. He didn't just betray me, he stepped into my life, taking my role as a husband and then attempting to do the same as a father. My son, who is 7 and very bright, found himself in the middle of this complicated family drama. My brother has been pushing him to start calling him dad, which has led to several heated and painful arguments between us. The thought that my brother is attempting to erase me from my son's life is something I find unbearable. Now, amidst this storm, I've found some solace and happiness. I'm engaged to be married to a wonderful woman who is empathetic and supportive. She has been a rock during these turbulent times, understanding my pain and standing by me as we plan our future together. However, even this happy occasion has become a battleground of family opinions. My aunt, with whom I've always had a close relationship, surprised me by suggesting that I invite my brother to my wedding. She argued that it would be a good opportunity for reconciliation. This suggestion was echoed by other family members, who insisted that it could be a chance for healing. They even tried to ease my discomfort by saying that my ex-wife wouldn't need to attend. My brother, they mentioned, wanted to make amends and thought my wedding would be the perfect setting for this. At first, I laughed off the suggestion, unable to believe that after everything, a wedding invitation could mend such deep wounds. But the laughter soon gave way to frustration as the family pressure mounted. They couldn't see how painful it was for me to even consider this. My fiancé, trying to understand my refusal, wondered if my strong reaction was because I still had unresolved feelings for my ex. But it's not about lingering feelings for her, it's about the betrayal and the ongoing hurt my brother causes, particularly concerning my son. Despite my family's arguments, I stood firm on my decision. Reconciliation, if it ever happens, can't be forced or staged at my wedding, which should be a celebration of new beginnings, not old wounds. The family's pushback has been intense. They accuse me of holding grudges and being unforgiving. They worry about how this stance affects my image, especially in the eyes of my fiancé. It's a lot to process. On one hand, I have my upcoming marriage, a beacon of hope and happiness. On the other, there's the unresolved chaos of my past, pulling at the seams of my present. Inviting my brother to my wedding feels like it would validate his actions, something I am not ready to do. This decision has put me at odds with family members who believe in forgiveness at all costs, but I feel they're asking too much of me too soon. I'm left pondering how to balance these conflicting pressures. How do I maintain peace within my family while staying true to my feelings? How do I protect my future from the shadows of my past? These questions hang heavy as I plan my wedding, hoping to start afresh, while the echoes of past betrayals linger in the background, shaping my decisions and my relationships. Now for the top comments before the update. Not the a-hole. Honestly, if you are not comfortable with him being that, they need to respect that. I mean, I find it highly insane that they think there is a mending the fence option. Brother burnt that bridge down and continued to pour gas to the fire to ensure it doesn't stop smoldering. The family members were asking if he can stay home too. They're all criticizing my decision and asking me how that looks like for my fiancé. It looks like you have some self-respect, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. And I'd be tearing your fiancé a new one as well. Do you really want to get married to a person who throws that at you? Your family are ridiculous. Cut him off. He's now just your ex-wife's new husband. Your brother is dead to you. And dead people don't come to weddings. I completely agree. My brother will not be attending my wedding. He chose my ex-wife over his sibling and took my family from me. I consider that unforgivable, and he will have to live with the consequences. Family doesn't do what he did. If he actually wants to have a better relationship, the least he can do is let my child know that he only has one daddy me and not try to replace me. He should also tell his fiancée if he still wants to salvage the relationship that he has no feelings for his ex-wife. She made her choice to follow his brother. The brother isn't invited because he did something unforgivable. Period. Not the whole. Regardless of what took place, it's still you and your fiancé. A wedding. If you don't want them there, they can't be there. If anyone has a problem with that, they don't have to show up either. Hope you find happiness, Opie. Not the a-hole. Why is the whole family telling you to bend for your brother? Why didn't they defend you when he literally tore your family apart after taking advantage of your generosity? Why is the burden of forgiveness left on you when he continues to actively do vicious things like convince your son to call him dad? If you haven't decided on party favors for your wedding, I would recommend mirrors so your family can take a long look at themselves to see the hypocrisy that is plain on their faces. Update 1. Since my last post, tensions have only escalated with my family over the decision not to invite my brother to my upcoming wedding. Despite clearly explaining my stance and the reasons behind it, my family continues to push back, which has been incredibly stressful. In a recent family gathering that was meant to be a simple dinner, things took a turn for the worse. My aunt, who has been particularly vocal about me reconciling with my brother, brought him up again. She argued that weddings are about family unity and forgiveness, which sparked a heated debate at the table. To my dismay, my brother was also unexpectedly brought to the dinner by another relative who thought it would be a good opportunity for us to clear the air. The moment he walked in, the atmosphere tensed up significantly. My brother, rather than being conciliatory, took a more confrontational approach. He made a snide remark about how I was still holding on to the past, and even suggested that my reluctance to include him in the wedding was more about my unresolved feelings towards my ex-wife than about the betrayal I felt from him. He accused me of using him as a scapegoat for the failure of my marriage and not being man enough to handle my issues directly with my ex. My brother's words were cutting, and unfortunately, they did not stop there. He continued by saying that he was a better father figure to my son than I ever was, claiming that my son prefers the stability he and my ex-wife could offer over the supposed bitterness and anger I was nurturing. I was furious and deeply hurt by his accusations. The situation escalated quickly, and I ended up leaving the dinner early, feeling betrayed not just by my brother, but by the family members who seemed to support his narrative. Since that night, I've had several conversations with my fiancé, who, despite earlier misunderstandings, has been incredibly supportive. She witnessed the entire exchange that night and saw firsthand the toxic dynamics I was trying to avoid by not inviting my brother to our wedding. She agreed that the environment my brother and my ex-wife were creating was not healthy for my son, and we discussed taking further steps to ensure his well-being. In light of all this, I've decided to seek legal counsel again to see if there are any adjustments that can be made to the custody arrangement, given the hostile environment my brother is fostering, especially with his attempts to replace me as a father figure in my son's life. As for my family, the divide has only deepened, and while it pains me to become estranged from them, my priority is the health and happiness of my own immediate family, my son and my fiancé. I need to protect them and myself from further harm. I appreciate the support from those who have shared similar experiences and offered advice. It has helped me feel less alone in this struggle. I'll continue to update as things develop. Thank you for standing by me. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for not supporting my cousin's relationship? I'm a 27-year-old woman, and my cousin, who is now 23, has been one of the closest people in my life for many years. Our bond strengthened significantly when she turned 16. We started doing almost everything together, from shopping trips to late-night movie marathons. When she turned 18, she even moved in with me for a bit. During that time, she became more like a little sister to me than just a cousin. We shared secrets, supported each other through tough times, and celebrated good times together. At the same age, I was deeply in love with a man named Mark, who was also 27. Mark and I had a serious relationship. We talked about the future a lot, Marriage, kids, the whole dream. But when I was 25, those dreams shattered. Mark confessed that he had been lying about wanting those things, marriage and kids, for the entire time we were together. This revelation devastated me. I felt betrayed, not just because he didn't want the future I did, but because he had deceived me for so long. It was a tough period, and the breakup that followed was messy and painful. Throughout this ordeal, my cousin was my rock. She was there for me, offering her shoulder to cry on and giving me the strength to move forward. I leaned on her heavily, and her support meant the world to me. However, about a month ago, things took a turn that I never saw coming. My cousin excitedly announced she was pregnant and engaged. I was thrilled for her initially. Seeing her happy made me happy too. She organized a family cookout to celebrate, and I went there full of joy, ready to meet the man who had made her so happy. But that joy evaporated the moment I arrived at the cookout. The man she was engaged to, the man who was the father of her unborn child, was none other than Mark, my ex-fiancé. The shock was like a physical blow. I felt like the ground had been pulled from under me. My cousin, my closest confidant, was marrying the man who had broken my heart. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't even speak. I just turned around and left the cookout without a word. In the days that followed, my phone was flooded with calls and messages from my family and my cousin, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. The betrayal felt too deep, too raw. About a week later, I finally answered a call from my cousin. She tried to explain, saying she understood how weird and difficult the situation was, but that Mark was going to be family now, and she needed me to support her. She pleaded with me to be happy for her, but I couldn't. The wound was too fresh, the betrayal too stark. I told her I couldn't support her choice and asked her not to contact me again. Following this, my family began to pressure me. They argued that what was done and that I needed to get over it for the sake of my cousin, who was getting married and having a baby. They told me it was an exciting time for the family and that I should put my feelings aside. This response from them made me feel even more isolated and misunderstood. How could they expect me to just forget what happened and celebrate with them? Feeling hurt and angry, I finally snapped. I told everyone who sided with her that they could forget about contacting me again. To me, family meant loyalty and support, not betrayal and pain. My family did not take my reaction well. They called me unreasonable, bitter, and even cruel. They argued that it had been 2 years since my breakup with Mark, that no one owns a person, and that I needed to accept the situation and move on. They accused me of holding a grudge and said that my inability to let go was not a good look, especially in front of my fiancé. Faced with their lack of understanding and compassion, I made the difficult decision to block them all. Now I find myself at a crossroads, trying to reconcile my past with my future. I'm planning a life with my fiancé, who has been a source of comfort and understanding through this turmoil. Yet I'm also mourning the loss of the close relationship I once had with my cousin. Navigating this new reality is challenging. I'm left wondering how to heal from this betrayal and how to build a future without those who were once so integral to my life. It's a painful process, but necessary for my own well-being and for the healthy start of my new family with my fiancé. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Most definitely not the a-hole. What she did was terrible. She knew you all were together for all those years and broken up, and she still dated him. That's basically betraying you. I'm sorry you have to go through that. I bet it started before they broke up too. Went from girlfriend's cousin to baby mom. And real quick. And is nobody curious why these two were even in contact after the split? Especially if cousin was comforting Opie. Honestly, the fact that they both knew about the relationship drama, got together so soon after your major breakup, and kept their relationship from you, only to reveal it in a suitably dramatic moment in front of your entire family, makes me wonder if they didn't do this to you deliberately. If this is an exciting time for the family, how come you didn't hear a thing about your cousin's mysterious fiancé until she could spring this on you? Not the a-hole for going. No contact after that. From what you say, it seems that Mark told you he didn't want children, when you had been under the impression that he did, that he's celebrating his impending fatherhood so soon after he ended a long-term relationship over. Exactly. That issue. Makes me wonder if he was already interested in your cousin and was lying to you in order to break your relationship off. I'm just an internet speculator, so take that with a grain of salt. But I've heard of scenarios like that before. I agree with everything in your first paragraph, but I'm assuming it was the other way around. Marks. I was telling her he did not want children, knowing she was child-free, and then later revealing he actually did want children. So they broke up for that reason, because he admitted he did want kids and she wasn't going to change her mind. And then he chose Opie's cousin to be the woman he'd have a child with when he couldn't get her to do it. Absolutely crap of him. Not the a-hole. Your cousin can marry whom she likes, but you don't have to be there for it. I'm sure it's tough on your family too, but it's disappointing that they are all siding with her after you were in a relationship with this guy for 12 years, including engagement. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for telling off my daughter for a horrible comment towards her sister, even though she feels like she's correct and justified? My older daughter is now 31 and my younger daughter is 27. 4 years ago, my older daughter's fiancé left her for my younger daughter a month before their wedding. Yes, it is as terrible as it sounds. Made even worse by the fact that my younger daughter was 2 months along in her pregnancy. I was extremely disappointed in my younger daughter. They both claimed they were in love and are still married till now. It literally destroyed our family. My older daughter has banned her sister from coming around her, which everyone has been accommodating all these years. It makes holidays very stressful, but it is what it is. I've tried my best to have a good relationship with my grandchild while navigating the family issues. My older daughter has made very cruel comments about my grandchild, which I've ignored. That's a mistake on my part for not shutting it down. In February, my elder daughter dropped by her house unexpectedly and encountered my younger daughter, son-in-law, and grandchild. It was very tense, and my younger daughter broke down in tears and tried apologizing again, and revealed to us that my grandchild was likely on the autism spectrum. And my oldest daughter immediately replied by saying that it's sad that the karma of cheating parents is inflicted on the children, and that maybe this will be a lesson for my younger daughter. My son-in-law and my oldest daughter got into a huge fight, and everyone left in tears. I've always been sympathetic to my older daughter and have usually taken her side, but I think what she said is extremely out of line and mean. I told her that what she said was unacceptable and that she needs to apologize or I will not be having her over anymore. She then told me that my parenting is atrocious and it's no wonder my younger daughter turned out to be a bad word. I've clearly messed up somewhere too. Have raised 2 daughters who've made such cruel judgments. But am I wrong for taking a stand on this issue? Both my daughters were lovely people with a lot of success, but our whole family is so angry and sad now. My oldest daughter is the complete opposite of who she used to be, but she refuses to go to therapy, even when I offer to pay for it and come with her if she wants. I'm just heartbroken. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. I'm giving the older daughter a pass because her comment was justified. Let's break down exactly why. Finding out your fiancé was cheating a month before the wedding is a huge blow. I can't imagine how horrible it would be to find out that it was with your own sister and that she was pregnant. That is grounds for permanently removing those 2 from your life. Now we have the mother. What was her reaction? I'm extremely disappointed in sister, but she gave us the first grandchild, so I'm not going to rock the boat too hard. You make the holidays work, so it's obvious. She has seen very little to no actual repercussions for what they did. Now, older daughter simply suggests the sister is getting her comeuppance and that she feels sorry for the child. And this is where you make your stand. This is the breaking point. A step too far. Jesus, Opie. Could you make it any more obvious how much you favor your younger daughter? Your older daughter is right. Your parenting is atrocious. My oldest daughter is the complete opposite of who she used to be. No crap, Sherlock. Her fiancé cheated with her younger sister, and her family decided that was perfectly fine. While therapy probably would be helpful for her, therapy needs to be with someone you trust. Why would she want you there? You've more than shown her where your loyalties lie. Editing to ask for a lot of comments. I never said the oldest daughter's comment wasn't an asshole comment. But if you think the actions are justified, then you don't give them an SH. The majority of my original comment addresses the justification, but there are other things as well. Older daughter wasn't the first to bring up autism. Her sister threw it in her face to garner sympathy. Older daughter isn't blaming any of this on the innocent child, and in fact feels sorry the child might be a vessel for karmic retribution. This is putting everything on the parents, if she wants to believe autism is a punishment. I agree. That is an asshole move, but I still feel her comment to her sister was justified, and the older sister's views on disabilities do not in any way reflect my own. Unknown. Your youngest and her husband are whole. What your eldest said sounds hurtful, but it didn't hurt the child. The baby's not any less or more autistic for what she said. I'd argue nothing has changed for the baby at all. After your eldest said that your youngest and her husband should be the ones trying to fix this. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother that my stepdad will not be walking me down the aisle because I hate him and in turn ripping my family apart? I'm 23, and I've been looking forward to this particular June for a long time. It's when I'm getting married to my boyfriend of 6 years. We're planning a big celebration because my fiance comes from a large family and we've got a wide circle of friends. I've always imagined this day as one filled with joy, surrounded by the people we love. However, my side of the family is much smaller. It's mostly just my mom, as I never knew my dad. I also have an aunt and an uncle who chose not to have kids. Growing up, I've always seen my uncle as a father figure, especially since my biological father was never in the picture. My mom married my stepdad when I was 12, but to put it mildly, I've never warmed up to him. He has a way of making every conversation uncomfortable. He's often mean-spirited and makes racist, sexist, and transphobic comments that are really just for shock value. During my teenage years, his behavior significantly contributed to my struggles with mental health and an eating disorder. For years, I tried to communicate my feelings about him to my mom, hoping she might see just how harmful his behavior was. But around the age of 15, I stopped trying. She always defended him, insisting that beneath his harsh exterior was a good man who would never intentionally hurt us. This response from her made me feel unheard and isolated, so I eventually stopped sharing my true feelings about him. When I turned 19, I moved out to live with my boyfriend. This distance from home made a huge difference in my life. I still made it a point to visit my mom regularly, about 3 to 4 times a week. But I carefully timed these visits to coincide with my stepdad's work schedule to avoid seeing him. By not being around him as much, I found it easier to manage the lingering resentment and hurt, and we pretty much stopped arguing since I mostly avoided any real interaction with him. Despite this, he still refers to me as his daughter, and my mom continues to claim that he loves me. This narrative doesn't match my feelings at all, but it seems like everyone else believes we have a quirky, bantering relationship, not realizing how deeply his words and actions have affected me. When my boyfriend proposed and we began planning our wedding, I knew immediately who I wanted to walk me down the aisle. My uncle, the man who had been a father figure to me throughout my life. I was so excited to ask him, and he was absolutely thrilled when I did. However, my aunt's reaction threw me off. She seemed surprised that I hadn't chosen my stepdad for this role. I explained to her that it had always been my dream for my uncle to do it, not my stepdad. This decision seemed to unleash a storm I hadn't anticipated. Just a few hours after this conversation, my mom called me, crying. She couldn't understand why I hadn't chosen my stepdad to walk me down the aisle and told me that I had broken his heart. She painted a picture of a man who was deeply hurt, believing we had a good, light-hearted relationship. I found myself trying to explain that my uncle walking me down the aisle had always been my plan, not something meant to hurt anyone. But as she pressed on about how heartbroken my stepdad was, something inside me snapped. For years, I had suppressed the pain and anger I felt towards him for the sake of family peace. Overwhelmed, I finally expressed how deeply he had hurt me during my most vulnerable years. I told her there was nothing funny about him ruining my self-esteem and my teenage years. I even confessed that if it were entirely up to me, he wouldn't even be at the wedding. My mom was shocked and saddened by my words. She reiterated her belief that he was a good man who loved me, seemingly unable to grasp the full extent of my feelings. Following our conversation, my mom said she would tell him to back off, but the damage was done. My stepdad became angry and even tried to intervene by asking my uncle not to walk me down the aisle. Fortunately, my uncle understood my feelings and chose to support me, refusing to step aside. Now my uncle isn't speaking to my stepdad, and the tension has escalated. This family rift feels like it's grown wider, and I'm left feeling as though my wedding, which should be a celebration, is overshadowed by familial conflict. I've inadvertently stirred up deep-seated issues that have been simmering for years. It's painful to see how my choice, meant to honor a cherished relationship, has led to such discord. Now, as I continue to plan for my big day, I'm grappling with these complex family dynamics, trying to find a way to celebrate my new beginning without further alienating the few family members I have left. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments, not the a-hole, your wedding. He doesn't have to even be there. It's your day. If you're making memories for your family, he's not part of that. The fact he's tried to ruin it by getting your uncle involved is a lot about him. My exact thoughts. It sounds like he's proving exactly why Opie wouldn't want him in her life. Not the a-hole. It's your wedding. If it were up to me, he wouldn't even be at the wedding as the guest list. Not up to you. It is. But my mother doesn't drive, so she'd have no way to get to the wedding without him. We live in a rural area with very little public transport. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry. Your mom has been going to a lot of trouble to convince herself. Everything has been fine. You don't owe her that illusion. It's lovely that you have a good relationship with your uncle. I hope you have a wonderful wedding day. I'd recommend not jumping too. I've torn my family apart, though. Okay, you've just stopped drinking the Kool-Aid. You're not responsible for their reactions. Don't let them bully you into pretending. And don't take on more of this than what's fair.